Hey everybody, how's it going? It's the Daily Shooter, and today we're going to talk about Glock Perfection. That's been the company's slogan for as long as I can remember. But we all know that Glocks are not perfect. So today I want to talk about what would make a Glock perfect. What would be Glock Perfection in my eyes? So let's go ahead and get started. This video is brought to you by Blackout Coffee. If you guys like coffee like I do, check out Blackout Coffee. They're a Second Amendment supporting company. They donate to our troops, and they make some incredible different roasts. So check out Blackout Coffee. And by the USCCA, one of the most important links you might ever click. Get yourself some self-defense training and some self-defense liability insurance. Trust me, it's the peace of mind that you deserve. Click the link down below. Now, when it comes to Glocks, the best comparison that I can think of is actually between a Glock and an iPhone. The reason I say that is because each generation of each one of those things has very minimal changes done to it, but they expect you to buy the new latest and greatest thing when really not that much has changed. For instance, when it comes to the iPhone, we have square edges. Oh, no, next year we have round edges. And then next year we went back to the square edges, but we added some extra colors. Well, Glock, it's kind of the same thing. We had finger grooves. Now we don't have finger grooves. Oh, well, this time we've added back straps, but nothing else has really changed. So you end up with what's very similar to previous generations' models, but that new generation means that you should pick it up because in some way it's got to be better, right? Now, with that being said, let me go ahead and say that this is not a Glock bashing video in any way. I love Glocks. I'm a big fan of Glocks, even though I know there's a lot of people out there that are not. I know that if I pick up this Glock 17 right here, it's going to be reliable. I'm going to be able to pick it up, and I'm going to be able to defend myself with it, and I'm going to have the confidence in knowing that it's going to go bang. And to me, that means pretty much everything. It doesn't matter how cool something is or how many features it has. You know, it doesn't matter how many cuts or anything. It does not matter if it has a bunch of features if it does not work. And the one thing you could say about Glocks is Glocks are very reliable. They are trustworthy and they just work. So that is the reason that this is not a Glock bashing video. I believe that Glocks are good, reliable pistols. Okay, so Glock, if you're listening, pay attention because this is the first thing that I would change. If it's the only thing that you change, that would be a big start. The first thing that I would do in the next generation of Glocks is get rid of the plastic sights. There is no need to have plastic sights anymore. The machining is available, the technology is available to make it a lot cheaper to produce regular metal sights. That is the first thing. In my opinion, you can't even possibly claim Glock Perfection if you're still using plastic sights. So the first thing that would go for me would have to be those sights. Put in some metal sights, some nice 3-dot sights. Hell, why not even put in night sights? Give your consumer the advantage. That's the way that I look at it. If you're producing a defensive tool, you want to make the best defensive tool that you can. And so why not give your consumer the best possible advantage that they can have? Now, the next change that I think would help move towards that whole Glock Perfection slogan would have to be the angle of the grip. There are a lot of people out there that like Glocks, but they just hate this angle. You would bring so many more people into the Glock fold if you were to change the grip angle and allow it to be more up and down, more 1911-ish. So what I would do, instead of providing in your later generation Glocks backstraps that say, okay, we're going to have a smaller backstrap, a slightly smaller backstrap, and then we're going to have a smaller backstrap and a slightly smaller backstrap with a beaver tail on it, all with the same hump on it. Maybe instead provide a different grip angle, which means physically removing the back, so having this held in with a pin, physically removing the back, and then switching that out with a grip angle that's more straight up and down. For those people that just don't like the way that a Glock points. I mean, there's no way that you guys don't watch social media and watch all the things that people are saying about Glocks and not notice that there are a lot of people out there that simply don't shoot them because of the grip angle. How many more customers would you gain if you were to change that grip angle, or at least allow people the option to change the grip angle? Okay, so another thing that I would change, and again, this is just my opinion on what would lead you closer to that slogan, Glock Perfection, and that would be front cocking serrations on every single model. Not just some models, not specialty models, or, mil-spec models or something like that. Every single model should have front serrations. Now, not everybody is going to use those. Not everybody believes in press checks, but it does not hurt to have a gripping surface in the front where Glocks are extremely smooth. I have been to enough training classes where I've seen people holster and then draw on a target and it goes click because they didn't check or double check that they were ready to go before they holstered. And so I have learned that doing a press check prior to holstering just gives me that added bit of confidence. But press checking when the sides are this smooth is a lot more difficult when you're hot and sweaty and your hands have all that sweat all over them than it is when you have front serrations. And so front serrations on every model would be another good change. Now, the next thing that I would change, and I hate when every company does this, I would change the rail system. I do not like, even SIG, I don't like when companies have some type of proprietary rail system. Now, this isn't necessarily proprietary because you can use, 1913 attachment pieces to put stuff on here. So your lights and lasers that will fit with a 1913 rail generally will fit on here. However, Glock has a larger slot than a 1913 rail. What that means is if you have something that is actually too spec for a 1913 style rail, it is going to move around just a little bit. It's not much, but it will jiggle back and forth. If you have something that is meant for a Glock spacer like this, it will fit in there and it'll fit in there nice and tight. But again, you only have this one slot. Why not have more slots? Now, I get you have this little plate right here that has some information on it. Move it. It cannot be that difficult to move it, but or even put it underneath the rails in some other fashion. I don't know, but put more adjustability. Put a full length pick rail at the bottom right here to give people not only the option to run 1913 rail products on there without it moving, but at the same time allowing them a little bit more adjustability on where they put it. So slide serrations and also change out that one little piece right there. And I think that would be probably a pretty big difference. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that would like me to also address the trigger, because the trigger on Glocks is certainly not the best. And again, if you're talking about your slogan being perfection, you would want a great trigger, right? Well, Glock triggers aren't great, but they're not bad either. I've had plenty of striker fired pistols that have absolutely horrible triggers. I mean, terrible triggers. And then I've had some others that cost significantly less than this that have had fantastic triggers, much better than the Glock. For instance, the Canik TP9 Elite series. Those pistols have fantastic triggers. They're also striker fired. So what I would consider doing is not only just changing the geometry of the trigger shoe, and I've heard that there's some issues as to why they have it like that for certain reasons, but not only changing the geometry of the trigger shoe to make it a little bit more comfortable, or at least make that little center safety bar right there recess all the way back into the trigger shoe, so that when you're pulling on the trigger, you're not just simply pulling on that safety bar and you end up with that nice little line after a few hundred rounds right through your finger right there. So I would change the geometry of that, make sure that the trigger bar goes all the way, that safety bar goes all the way into the trigger, but then why not just, I understand you don't want a super light trigger on a defensive pistol. You do not want that. But I believe you could make a smoother trigger just by simply polishing one or two little pieces to make the trigger pull the same weight effectively, but again, just smoothing out the overall pull. That, to me, with those changes, would make Glock Perfection. So in my opinion, I think with those changes, you would have Glock Perfection, because you would address just about everything. You would address those people that don't like the hump on the grip and give them a much straighter grip. You would address the people that don't like the fact that there's no front serrations. You would address the people that don't like the fact that it has plastic sights. You would add more versatility and adjustability to this front rail system. You would get rid of that little safety bar protruding even when the trigger's pulled all the way back. These minor adjustments, which I think are well within the grasp of a large company like Glock, can be made to another generation and start a new generation with changes that actually matter instead of the minor changes that we're seeing and really kind of the bouncing back and forth between generations that we're seeing. A lot of it is what used to work, didn't work, and now it does work again. So having cutouts for your fingers to be able to strip the mags, losing the finger grips, adding the finger, the grip surface in the front, and removing the finger grooves and all that stuff. These are all changes that have kind of gone back and forth with Glock. And for me, if you're going to make a new model and you want people to invest in it, other than just coming out with something minor, again, like an iPhone, right, where people still stand in line. I do not get it. For the next generation iPhone, they have an 11, but the 12 came out, and it's 4% faster, and it's 0.001% thinner, and they went back to the square corners, but they still stand in line and spend their money on it. Glock can't do the same thing again. I think with the way that companies right now are coming out with absolutely incredible pistols that not only address all these concerns already, from a different company, but they're also reliable and affordable and everything else. I think that in order for Glock to stay relevant, they're going to have to make some serious changes. They cannot continue with the same model and simply slap a different number on it every single time. So again, this is not a Glock bashing video, because the one thing that I do absolutely love about Glocks, and I'll be honest, I don't mind the hump. As a matter of fact, the hump actually feels good in my hand. So if you were to come out with back straps that were straight or with the hump, I'd just leave the hump there. But I think it's a very reliable pistol. The tolerance are such that if you get dirt and debris and all sorts of things happen. I've kicked these things across the ground. I've launched them across the dirt and in the dust and picked them up, and they still run fine. So the reliability is there. The accuracy is there. You just need what I would consider to be really just cosmetic changes, other than, maybe improving the trigger pull just a little bit. So I hope, that instead of just saying, oh, Glocks aren't perfect, I hope that this kind of answers some people's questions as to what I would change to actually get to Glock Perfection. So I want to thank you all very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, and have a great day.